Here we go. We're on page 82 in the middle. If we have no such complication, there's plenty we should do at home. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say the only thing he needs to do is keep sober. Certainly he must keep sober, for there will be no home if he doesn't. But he's yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he has so shockingly treated. Passing all understanding is the patience of mothers and wives, the mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no homes today, would perhaps be dead. That would be true of Bill and Bob, with Lois and Ann. If they wouldn't have had those wives, they would have never had the support, the platform to do the work that became Alcoholics Anonymous. No way. So, the alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through others' lives of others. Hearts are broken. Here's a little inventory checklist for you on your relationships. Hearts are broken. Sweet relationships are dead. Affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough. Remember? Drinking, the bottles were a symbol of the problem. The main problem of the Alcoholic Center is in his mind. I need to understand what thinking is informing my behavior, because all action is born in thought. You don't take an action without having a thought. Might be an automatic one, but you're going to have a thought. He's like the farmer who came out of the cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? Isn't it nice I've stopped drinking?" No, not particularly. You're still a jerk around here. And now you're gone every night to AA instead of the bar. I'm not seeing a big change here. When you're hearing those complaints at home, what they're reflecting back to you is they don't see the program showing up at home. It's easy to do in the meeting. It's easy to do when you're sitting with your sponsor. But usually the last place we bring it is home. And what they're saying is the first place you bring it is home. Bring it home. And practice these principles at home. Yes, there's a long period of reconstruction ahead. We must take the lead. A remorseful mumbling that we're sorry won't fill the bill at all. We ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it, being careful not to criticize them. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions are partly responsible. So we clean house with the family. How? Ask each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. Aspects of God. You get what you practice. If you wake up and you're fearful all day, you'll get more fear all day. If you're resentful, you get more resentment. And what they're saying is patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. You'll get more of those things if you practice them. They don't come for free. What we're doing is we're focusing our thinking on these new aspects of behaving, right? The spiritual life's not a theory. We have to live it. It has to be in our actions. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. They will change in time. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. But this is good, period. If you're dealing with someone, because you get in recovery, it doesn't mean that they have to. It doesn't mean everyone has to. There are certainly Al-Anon family groups. There's certainly places they can go to get help. But most people, most of the non-alcoholics in our lives, don't sit around thinking they have a problem. They're thinking, when he straightens his butt out, my problem goes away. And if you live in a situation like this, you'll find as you straighten yourself out, the problem doesn't go away. Then you direct that person, or you hope that person will go to somewhere like Al-Anon so they can understand how they've been affected by living with someone like you. I can't help my family. How do I help them? By my changed life, by my demonstration. My dad sobered up 10 years in front of me. I helped him build his last house while I was still drinking. And he knew I was drinking. And every day his cronies would come and pick him up, and they'd go to lunch, their little AA truck full of jerks. And I'd be sitting on the foundation drinking beer and eating Hershey's, you know. And they never said anything to me. My dad never said a single word to me. But his demonstration of his changed life spoke volumes, you know, because he was my example that you don't have to live this way. There's a way out. I could go to AA meetings and say you were all lying, but I knew he wasn't. Because I saw him go down after he was sober for a year because he was like me. He came in and he was arguing with everything and everybody, and he was obstinate about the God idea. And after a year, he got drunk. And I was on the road, and they called the family together because they thought he was going to die in detox. Because in about 2 weeks, he was drinking at the level he was when he quit, and his body, his organs were shutting down. He was dying. And he came out of that with a different attitude about his drinking. He did the controlled sobriety experiment, didn't like it, and went back to drinking and found he couldn't control it. So his experience convinced him, and he lived through it. So his experience convinced him that he needed to try something different. But where I'm going with this is his example was nonverbal. Well into recovery, my dad was a doer. He was not a you know, when he sponsored guys, he basically said, come do what I do, go where I go, and you'll get it. He didn't do a lot of teaching. And I do more hands-on with guys, and I would share all kinds of stories with them, and I'd be doing a workshop, and I'd say, well, why don't you tell me something about your 6 and 7 work, you know? And he just wouldn't talk to me about it. And I leaned on him and leaned on him. I said, why won't you talk to me about this recovery shit? I mean, we're both far enough down the road, you know. You can share some shit with me. You've obviously got some things figured out for yourself. And he looked down at the table. He was kind of a quiet guy. And he looked back up and he said, I was always afraid that if I said anything, it would screw you up. But his example was so loud. And it was not perfect. It was not perfect. Hear that. It's not about being perfect. But he demonstrated a changed life, and he demonstrated continual improvement. And it was just so damn loud that you didn't have to have any words. Just watch what he did. Watch what he did. So, in terms of my family, now getting back to this relationship thing, it takes 2 people to dance, most times. It certainly takes 2 people to fight. You can't have an argument without your participation. So what's one of the things they tell us over and over? In the amends, they tell us in the resentment, this was our course, what? Don't argue, don't criticize. You remove those 2 things, 90+% of your relationship problems vanish. Because argument is not discussion. I used to tell you we're having a discussion. You'd say, no, this is an argument. I'd say, no, this is an animated discussion. But it was really an argument. Because an argument is I'm trying to get you to think like me. A discussion is we share the ideas. There is no judgment. You can do your thing, I'll do my thing. There's a level of acceptance and honoring that goes on that's not in the argument. And the argument's based on I think you need to change for me to be okay. And that's a trap. Because we're not going to get anyone to change. If they change, it'll be because of the attraction of what you're doing. I've had many people, I don't make it a secret in the community that I'm an alcoholic because it has some value. And I know people are watching because people watch us, especially in your neighborhoods and your life where you get sober. They know you when you weren't sober, and they're watching. They're watching all the time. I promise. They're watching how you behave, how you interact, how you respond to certain situations, and so is your family. And I can't tell you how many times guys have come up to me and said, you know, I got a kid with a problem. Will you talk to him? Or my wife's got a problem. What can we do? Because of my example, and because I let them know. I'm anonymous at the level of press, radio, and film, but I'm not anonymous at the table level. I'm not anonymous at the garage, at the gas station, at the grocery store level at all. I want people to know so they know there's a resource. So, but the point I was getting to, I got off track, was that people that we interact with regularly, whether it's employees, employers, wives, girlfriends, our children, will respond when we change. You can't not respond to love. Just like when you're a browbeater and you're an intimidator and you're a shamer and a guilter, people respond to that. You can't not respond to the energy of it. And the same is true when you're coming from love, or you're coming from acceptance, or you're coming from patience or kindness or tolerance. If you can be consistent, the energy of that principle will change the relationship. You don't have to change anything because it's just not going to work. I'm not going to argue anymore. Not going to fight. I can't afford to be that emotionally drunk. It's emotional intoxicant for me to get angry. It's an emotional intoxicant for me to get resentful. It's an emotional intoxicant for me to get fearful. I get drunk on the emotion. And then I get drunk. So there may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. Some people can't be seen. What do I do about that? Send them an honest letter. There may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases, but we don't delay if it can be avoided. So we take care of the things that we can take care of. The things that we can't take care of, we might address with a letter. But then what do we do with all the anonymous faces that don't have names? What do we do with all the women that we use that we don't have names and have no way to get a hold of? We change our lives. We do living amends. What do we do with the person that's died? A lot of you have asked me about that during the course of this study. What do you do about it? How do you make an amend to a dead person? There's a bunch of different exercises. Some people will say, well, we'll write a letter. What you would say to that person, you go out to the grave, you can have yourself a little ceremony. You can read it to them. By the way, they're not there, but go ahead. You can read it to them, and you can burn it. Fine. That has worked for a lot of people. You can, for instance, I had an aunt or an uncle that I had harmed, and I might make an amend to the surviving aunt or uncle in their honor, like a memoriam. So I didn't do well with Uncle Harry, but I'm going to do the things that I didn't do with Harry with my Aunt Ruth. That's what I'll do. Or I'll do it with my sisters and brothers, or I'll do it somewhere. I need to put a demonstration in place. And I need to address it. But one of the things that you're going to run into with this is, how do I know it worked? You can go through the ritual. You can go through the exercise. But if you don't get to the forgiveness, you're trapped. It haunts you. So only way I know to forgive me is to stop the behavior, do what I say I'm going to do, demonstrate the new me, and be consistent. Will I be 100% consistent? No. But when I screw up, I just got to get back on my horse, amend it if I need to, and keep going in the right direction. In time, I will become forgiving of me, but not until I'm convinced I've changed. Does that make sense? We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. So they're giving me the qualities to come to this conversation with. Sensible, tactful, considerate, humble, without being servile. Humble. Just, I'm here to learn, really. Humility is a state of being teachable. I'm going to learn from this exchange. If I have the right attitude, I will get something out of every amend. And we don't grovel. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, if we're painstaking, that's the qualifier. We're coming into the promises. Probably everyone in here has heard the promises, right? Oh, yeah. All right, dig this. If I'm painstaking about my drinking, I'll be amazed before I'm halfway through. Have a couple drinks, I'm going to know a new freedom. Have a couple more drinks, a new happiness. Couple more drinks, I won't regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. Couple more drinks, I'll comprehend the word serenity and I'll know peace. A couple more drinks, no matter how far down I've gone, I'll see how I can help you. A couple more drinks, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. A couple more drinks, my whole attitude and outlook on life will change. Isn't that what booze did? I mean, that's what it did for me. It was a spiritual experience. It was a personality change sufficient about that all my old ideas were swept away to one side and replaced with a new set of ideas. Now they're saying, if you're painstaking about this phase of your development, this phase is the restitution phase. You'll be amazed before you're halfway through. Promise, you're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. A new freedom and a new happiness. Not the old freedom, which was the freedom of getting away from things because you finally got high enough or drunk enough. You couldn't feel it. Won't regret the past and wish to shut the door on it. That's a big one. If you're new and you're just starting to look at your past, that idea that someday you won't regret it or want to hide from it, that's a big promise. That's a big promise. But I will tell you today, there's no one I have to be afraid of running into. I'm walking down the street. I don't have to be afraid when I pick up the phone to answer it. Nobody's looking for me. I don't have any warrants out anymore. Nobody's pissed at me. Well, almost nobody. A few of you guys. But you know what I'm saying? I have this. I do have freedom. I have a new life. I have a new kind of peace and happiness. And I think I've demonstrated that it's not perfect, but it's there. It's not regret the past thing. That's freedom. That's freedom. We'll comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. A little bit, occasionally, from time to time. No matter how far down the scale we've gone, we'll see how our experience can benefit others. That's what we do when we share. That's what we do when we 12-step. My experience can benefit you because I've had the experience. I've had the experience of doing it correctly, and I've had the experience of doing it incorrectly. I've had the experience of controlled sobriety, controlled drinking. I've had this experience. So it can benefit you. It might not, but it can, if you choose. But I get to see a feeling of uselessness. Self-pity disappears. That's a nice emotional intoxicant to be rid of. That idea that I have no use and no purpose. Just taking up space. Self-seeking will slip away. I didn't know for sure. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. We'll lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. That's true, and that was a slow process. Because when I got here, being interested in you really wasn't high on my list. And this thing, self-seeking, will slip away. I had no idea how sick I was with self. And I didn't know necessarily, if I quit thinking about me, then who the hell was going to worry about me? You know? But that's the self-seeking. It's all about me thinking. What's in it for me thinking will slip away. And that's the adjective. It slips away. They describe this experience as our fears fall from us. This selfish self-seeking slips away. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of effort or pain involved in that. It just slips away. It's a byproduct of the work that we're doing, trying to line ourselves up with this God idea, or the steps. It's a byproduct of it. That stuff is going to go away. Our whole attitude, our whole angle of approach and outlook upon life will change. Sometimes drastically all at once and sometimes slowly over a period of time, but it will change. Fear of people, there's a nice one. And economic insecurity will leave us. It doesn't say our economic problems will leave us. It says our fear of them will leave us. The problem doesn't leave until I change the behavior. But you see, all through this, it's saying you'll get free of your fear. You'll get free of your fear. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. True. And then the conclusion will be, in some way, shape, or form in your mind, suddenly realize that God's doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I will suddenly have a sense that, there does seem to be some power working here. I can't name it, I can't describe it, and I can't prove it. But I'm starting to have different responses to situations which used to Light me up. You're pressing B3 and I'm not doing rage anymore. You're pressing B3 and I'm doing pause, pray. That's new. I'm not doing it 100% of the time, but I'm up to about 80%. Now I'm up to 90%. So am I going to have this awareness, this awakening, this raising of my consciousness that says, hey, you know what? There's some stuff happening here, and I couldn't do that before. So I must not be doing this in and of myself alone. There must be another source of power that's being added to this. That's the God idea, the mystery. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. That's a big promise. This will happen if you do the work. It doesn't materialize before you do the work. It materializes as a result of doing the work. What's the work? Getting out of the way. Getting out of the way of self. Getting new thoughts, new thought forms, new ideas, new paradigms to operate from. New values. New authorities in my life. Tolerance, patience, kindness, for instance. Usefulness. This thought that these promises will always materialize if we work for them, and the work is to grow in union with the power and to be of use to you, my fellows. That's what the work is. Self-sacrifice and work for others. That's what the thing said back in There's a Solution. That's my mission statement. This thought that I need these promises to materialize in my life brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. So, have we finished 9? No. Some of us are going to spend years on 9. We're going to spend some time on 9. Whether it's months, years, or decades, we're all going to spend time on 9. It's saying you don't have to complete your amends to continue the steps. So while I'm doing this, and some of you have had this experience in prior periods of sobriety where you do these amends, it's not always fun. Because for me to organize an amend for you, I have to go back through what I did. And if I go back through what I did, I'm going to feel it again, aren't I? Going to re-feel that. Going to re-feel that hurt. Going to re-feel that fear. Going to re-feel how inadequate I am in and of myself. Going to re-feel all that stuff, scary stuff. Feels insecure. I feel wobbly. I feel unstable. So they're saying now, while you're doing that work, continue to take this inventory and set right any new mistakes as we go along. Now, what's just happened very subtly is we've entered the present tense. The first 9 steps have all been about our past behavior, our old ideas about prayer, about meditation, about God, about honesty, about our conduct, about resentment, fear, hurtful behavior, all past. Now we're in the present. We continue now to take this inventory as we go along. Set right any new mistakes as we go along. Why? Because now we have a mechanism in today, in this moment, the 10th step, that helps me not recreate what I'm spending all this time amending. Remember, I've been talking a lot about be sure you're willing to change the behavior. Understand what informs that behavior. You're always going to find a fear component. I don't care what the behavior is, there's always fear involved. Sometimes it'll be fear and resentment. Sometimes it'll be fear and manipulation, intimidation, but there's always fear. So we vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. This is going to keep my street clean while I'm taking out the trash that I found in the 4th step. Okay? My part of the house cleaning, 4 through 9, is to make amends where appropriate and applicable, to own my past, to take responsibility for the harms I've done others, for the mistakes I've made. Okay? We enter the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. When did we enter the world of the Spirit? Really, the first step, when we surrendered. Then we got a little deeper in when we made a decision in the third step. And we've gone a lot deeper in as we've been dismantling our mental constructs, our psychological ideas about these things. Now, we're in the world of the Spirit. Our next function is growing understanding and effectiveness with Spirit, with God, but with ourselves too, the part of us that is divine. So, it's not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. There you go. They're saying, don't worry, you're not going to get this right away. And how long do I have to do this? Just for your lifetime. Okay? That may be 5 minutes, maybe 50 years. This is the first time they've told us in any step how long to do it. This step is the drunk trap. This step is the step that got me. Because I had done everything to this point half-assed. Several times. And for some reason, when I got to this step, I did exactly what it said. Right? So, watch what it does. It tells us it's not going to be an overnight matter, which means you're going to have to practice it. It's going to take some time. And then it says how long to do it for the rest of your life. Okay? Now, here's the warning. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Those sound familiar. That's what was driving the inventory that we took in the fourth step. That was what was driving my response to my life over in what we call column 4. What was my part? What was my mistakes? What were my faults? Right there. When these crop up, that's a promise. You don't hear that discussed a lot. What about that promise, that these defects are going to crop up? They're saying they're going to crop up. So when this happens, it doesn't mean I'm being a bad AA or my recovery's not working. It just says, hey, defect has popped up. So what do? It's God that wants to remove them. Discuss it with someone immediately. Third step, make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. 4, resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. Now, check this out. So I'm sitting here, I'm going along, having one of my perfect days in recovery, and I said, I realize I'm getting ready to lie. Oh, I'm getting ready to lie. Why are you late? I'm going to say flying saucer or I overslept. What is it, So I go, oh, this is commonly referred to as a spot check inventory. So I go, oh, I'm about to lie. What have I done? I've inventoried. I found the defect. Dishonesty. 4th step. Why did I do that? Oh, 3rd step, because I made a decision to turn my thinking and my actions over the care and guidance of this power that I'm not sure is there. And why did I do that? Because of the 2nd step, I've concluded that I got to be willing to believe that there is a power and it can help. And I did that. Why? Because of the 1st step. I lack power with alcohol, and I lack power to manage my life. So there's the first 4 steps. Right? In principle. So then it says, ask God to remove them at once. There's 6 and 7. There's 11. Okay? Discuss them with someone immediately. There's 5. And there's 10. Right? Make it amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. There's 8 and 9. Do you see what they've done? It's a trap. It's a trap. Because I didn't do a thorough inventory. And so I had done this 4th step as I described it to you guys more than once, The first pass, 3 names were not sufficient to bring about the promises. So I did it again, I came up with a few more names, I did it again. Finally, I had just kind of blown off this 4-step thing and I had moved on. And I got to this. And I would have these things, I called them cosmic turds. I would have these issues that would just start to be obsessing him. This thing, you got to deal with this thing. This taxes was one of those things. Just the tax idea just got so damn loud. I put it through this process. Look at this issue. You're lying. I put it through this process. And after a while, I realized, you know what? You're doing this one thing at a time. This is what they wanted you to do in the 4th step. And the 10th step is what got me back to do the thorough 4th step. It trapped me. It caught me near the end of this process by saying, you got these issues, try this out, try this out, try this out. So I tried one thing at a time until I got enough results that I was convinced and also had the awareness, you know what? You just weren't thorough enough. You never really did this in depth. Go back, take another shot at it. So, if I do this on an ongoing basis throughout the day, this is between your morning prayer and meditation and your evening reflection, everything between. I need to practice this stuff. How do I know if I'm practicing it? I got this 10-step that holds up the question in front of my face. Selfish, dishonest, resentful, or fearful. Anytime I get in a situation, I feel it if it's not okay. I feel it. I get uptight. My breathing shallows out, or I get my neck muscles get tense, or I get just this gut feeling, something's not right. I've learned to ask the question, what's not going your way, Roger? What's not going your way? And usually it's not something that's not going my way, it's something I'm afraid isn't going to go my way. But the point is I get in front of the fear. Oh, that's why you were about to lie, you know? That's why you were about to do that. That's why you're going to steal, because you convinced yourself there wasn't enough of this stuff, right? So you're just going to take a little extra for you. If I can do this in front of this, I don't end up at the end of the day going, man, I got all this crap. I feel horrible. What happens? You go through the day fighting with everybody and everything. You come home, you're two things. You're exhausted and you're pissed off. You're emotionally drunk. And if you don't have a process to clean that slate, so I forgot to do it the other day, but now I'm home, and it's not time for my 11-step stuff. I do that at the end of the day, but I need to take a breath here and see what's going on. You can do a 10-step then. Why am I so uptight? Oh, go back through the day and find out where you showed up this way, and then amend it if necessary. Ask God to remove it, because that's just an acknowledgement that I don't have power. I don't have sufficient power to not lie. I just lie. I'm good at it. I'm practiced. I just lie. I don't even think about it. It's just a natural orientation. So I need help. So there's no way when I get up tomorrow, if I've got this method in place, there's no way I wake up with an emotional hangover from yesterday. That emotional hangover is when you wake up and you're your head thinking about what you should have said to so-and-so, what you should have done when that guy really got at you. You know what I'm saying? Emotional hangover. I'm still a little uptight about that. That's fear. You can call it uptight, but you're scared. And what you'll find is, of all these conditions emotionally, fear is the most systemic. It's in everything. And my ego does not want me to say I'm afraid. It would much rather have me think I'm a little uptight. I'm a little doubtful. I have a little apprehension. I'm a little anxious. Again, and then following that says, we'll deal with that. When? Later. Later. And later never comes. And that doubt turns into fear. And that fear can turn into terror. And we can just end up paralyzed by our fear. Literally paralyzed by what we're thinking. Thoughts are important, powerful. So, love and tolerance of others. That's our code. That's a pretty simple access point to run a template for your daily life. It doesn't say do it the rest of your life. It says you'll continue, but it says just for now, do this. You can do this today. In the beginning, it's going to be like, Jesus, I got this inventory and that inventory, and I got this to remember and that to remember. It's like, I'll never remember all this crap, and I don't want to spend my whole life thinking about all this stuff I'm supposed to do. But you remember, back when it was talking about fear, it was talking about fear as an evil and corroding thread, and the fabric of our existence was shot through with it. Eventually, with some practice, these ideas, this 10-step inventory idea for one, prayer and meditation for another, will become part of the fabric of your being. You won't have to sit around and think about it. In the beginning, I'm running around with notebooks, reminding myself what I'm supposed to be looking for because I can't remember. And I sure can't remember what I'm supposed to do when I find it. I just can't remember. So I had the crap written out. I mean, and better to be reading your notes than smashing someone in the nose, Just, I know I'm supposed to do something here, and I know I'm not supposed to chase you down the exit ramp and run you off the road. So I'll pull those papers out of my pocket, and what am I supposed to do again? And eventually it will become automatic. But it takes time. It takes practice. Don't expect that because you haven't had a drink for 30 days, you're going to get this. You're not. Or a year, or 2 years, or 5 years. You're not. It's just a process. And it keeps unfolding relative to how much of me I put into it. And if I'm not willing to examine my thinking, not much is going to happen. You might not drink again. That's fine. That's a good thing. But you might not be very happy. You might not ever get free of that past. You might not ever get free of the idea that you're worthless and you don't deserve to be happy or to be free or to have any peace. You know, you might not get free of those things, but you might not never drink. You know, that's nice. So you got a sober, pissed off person instead of a drunk, pissed off person. You got a sober guy in agony instead of a drunk guy in agony. Recovery is not about being in agony. It's not about being in pain. There's no pain in these steps. All the pain that you and I experience doing these steps is our resistance to the ideas. The ideas aren't painful, and they're not hard. You could do this with a 6th grade education. So, love and tolerance of others is our code. That's a radical code, if you're like me. Self-love and intolerance of others is my code. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as if a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see, we'll see that our new attitude towards liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That's the miracle of it. We're not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We've not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We're neither cocky nor are we afraid. This is our experience. This is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. We keep in spit. We keep in fit spiritual condition by doing the steps. By realigning our thinking with the God ideas, or the ideas in recovery. Now here is an interesting thing. This is the only place in this book it says your sanity is returned. It doesn't say your power of choice is returned. It says your sanity is returned, which is I can recognize a good idea from a not good idea. So it says another symptom will be you'll seldom be interested in liquor. The obsession will be diminished if not completely removed. If tempted, we recoil as if from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally. In other words, when I see booze and I go, oh man, that looks good. I mean, like sometimes I'll be in a steakhouse and the guy will walk by with a sizzling steak and a frosty stein of beer. I'll salivate. I mean, my mouth will just wax mad. You know, and then the reaction is saying, I won't go order a beer and a steak. I'll go, that's nice for you, man. That's poison for me. That's the sane response. I no longer put my hand on the stove and hold it there, telling myself it'll be different. So I might have a reaction to the liquor, but my response is sane. But it happens automatically. I can't tell you when the obsession to drink left. But what this is saying is, you know what? Don't worry. You're not going to have to be fighting a drink the rest of your life. Because some of us are jonesing in here. Some of us want to use. Some of us want to drink. Some of us want out. Some of us want it 20 minutes ago, you know. Climbing the wall, skin crawling. This is never going to work. That's all normal. And what this is saying is that will go away. That will go away as a byproduct of doing this. You're not going to have to fight with this. Because we don't have the power to fight it. So it's off the menu. God will remove the things I'm powerless over if I allow it. I allow it by changing my thinking. I change my thinking by finding out what's wrong with my thinking. That's the inventory process. How it doesn't serve me. How it's trying to kill me. It just comes. Haven't even sworn off. Just been removed. It's interesting. When God does his psychic surgery, it's the whole time we're going through this and setting up for it, our ego's telling us this is going to be awful. This is going to be painful. This is going to be no anesthetic painful. This is going to be a root canal, stone cold sober. But the truth is, my experience has been when God performs this psychic surgery, not only is there no pain, there's no blood, and there's no scar. It's just gone. The biggest monkey I thought I had on my back was having a drink. I drank around the clock. If I was awake, I was drinking. I wasn't always falling down drunk, but I always had booze in me, always. Never had it more than an arm's length away. Had it in my coat, had it in my guitar case, had it in the car seat, had it in the glove box, had it everywhere. Had it behind my amp on the stage. I just always had a drink. And if you would have told me that was going to be completely gone and it wouldn't matter to me, I would have said, I wouldn't have believed it. That would have been miraculous. I was so crazy that left, and I didn't even notice it because I was so busy with all the other issues of my life. But the first miracle of recovery, that is that I can see how sick I am. The second is that all of a sudden I turn around one day after I've been, quote unquote, doing this work, and I realize that some things have just gone. They're just gone. They're not there. And I can't tell you when it happened. I can't tell you how it happened. I realize only in retrospect I'm different. I don't know when that happened. I don't know. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels, our past successes. We're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. That's the contract. I get a reprieve from the monkey that's in the cage now based on how I maintain my spiritual condition. There's nothing about drinking there. Every day is a day when I must carry the vision of God's will into all my activities. There's a mission statement. Do I do that every day, all day? No. Do I do it more than I did 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Absolutely. Absolutely. Am I better at it? Yes, I am. And you'll get better at it too. So the question is, what would the vision, the picture of God's will, God's thinking be for me? It's a nice thing to meditate on. And then act out of that. Act out of that. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It's the proper use of the will. This is nice. They've told us we've been restored to sanity, and now they've told us the proper application of our will, our thinking. The proper application of my thinking is to apply it in growing towards God, growing in recovery, growing towards the power, growing towards the mystery, growing in unity with a higher set of ideas than the ones I came in here with. Doesn't matter what symbology you want to use. But I've got to be moving towards something better that elevates me and those around me. So that's how I can exercise my willpower. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. That's their concept of God. If we have carefully followed directions, that's a big if. We've begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. So, if I read that and say, well, I don't have any sense of any flow, then the question is, have I carefully followed the directions? And the answer will always be no. Because you can't not have an experience of this if you do it. You cannot be aware of the experience for a while. And some other people might point it out to you. You might realize all of a sudden, man, I haven't been thinking about hookers for 3 months. I don't even know when that went away. I quit lying. I quit stealing at work. I haven't amended that yet, but at least I quit the behavior. I'm not lying so much. For me, the first really big one was, I haven't thought about killing myself for a few days. Then it was a few weeks. Then one time I got to the place where I did that little, when's the last time you wanted to kill yourself? And I couldn't remember. And I said, son, I've changed. Something's shifted in me. Because I wanted to kill myself bad in recovery. I really didn't want to do the recovery piece, and I didn't want to face my past. it seemed to me the only thing that made sense was to kill myself. To some extent, we've become God conscious. We've begun to develop this vital sixth sense, the intuitive part of ourselves. But we must go further. That means more action. They're relentless in this action crap. But this is interesting. Now they got me into daily living in the 10th step. Continue to watch for these defects: selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear. When they crop up, there's 4 things you can do so you don't go to bed tonight with a list of people that have to get hurt. And you won't wake up tomorrow thinking about what was unfinished today, because we got a process in place where you can keep the street clean for today while you're cleaning up the past. The other thing this does, and we're going to see this in 10, 11, 12, but this keeps me connected to the power. Because I'm taking everything I find in this little spot check inventory and I'm giving it to God. I'm consigning it to God. Take the good, take the bad. I'm consigning my defects, my mistakes to God, and I'm correcting. I'm making amends to you, turning my thinking to someone I can help, talking to another person. I'm clean. I'm not perfect, but I'm clean. And it's essential. I got to have something in place that allows me some breathing space to get through these amends. I need juice to continue. So on one hand, I'm living in the past with these amends, dealing with them one at a time in a consistent, regular, methodical way. But it's painful. And it takes a lot of energy. It's hard. It's hard work to discipline myself to sit in front of another human being and say, this is how I harmed you. I was wrong. This is what I did. And then do that effectively without creating more harm. So I need something to keep me going. And this keeps me going in the sense that I don't recreate the past I'm trying to get out of, but it also keeps me connected to the idea I don't have the power. I need the power. How do I get connected to the power? I ask for the power to come into my thinking and remove these other thoughts that are not serving me or you or the power. So I'm getting some juice. I got to stay plugged in to the source. I can't just sit here and do amends for years and not grow. So you're growing while you're dealing with your past. Because I got to grow. Because some of those amends I can't do being the man I am right now. I can't do it. That's our I can't do list. We got a few that we're willing to do right now. Take one of those. Take another one. Take another one. We got the later list. Now we've exhausted all the quick, easy ones. Now we're into the later list. We got the absolutely no, never list over here. By the time we get done with the medium ones and the ones I want to do right away, we will be new men. We'll be on a different basis, and we'll find that we're ready to do some of that stuff. Not all of it, some of it. Just got to be willing to do one. Got to keep going. You'll also find that as you're doing this, you have an experience that becomes your own that encourages you to go forward, because you're going to get some real relief. You're going to get some real freedom from this past, and that also brings a momentum on, an energy that makes me want to do more. That's why when you get to the absolutely no never list, it's absolutely no never list has changed to I think I can do this, or I know I can do this. Well, I can do this one. And that's all it takes. It just takes one more. So I need to have an ever-expanding sense and consciousness and concept of this God idea, because I'm going to need a bigger God as I go along into deeper stuff. I'm going to need a bigger God. And I can't get a bigger God just doing amends. I got to do this other work to stay plugged into the source. Anyone got any questions? It's a good place to stop. We'll start with step 11 tomorrow. Yep.